In the distant winter of 1842, where the winds dragged their claws across the dried grass of Dogwood Parish, 3 women stood at the edge of every tale ever whispered by trembling lips. They stayed together, inside a crooked dwelling, where the roof tilted westward and the windows never opened. Trees leaned away from it, and birds circled high above, but never landed. The townspeople named it the Carroway house, though none could remember who gave it that name, or why the sisters were known as Ununice, and Merbth. They dressed in dark fabric that swallowed the light and carried pouches that gave off strange smells. Boiled roots, animal fat, or wilted leaves never found in any store when a mother screamed during labor, or when the doctor refused to come near. It was one of them who arrived on foot, hands bare-faced, blank, and mouth sealed shut. None of them knocked. They entered, finished what they came to do, and departed before the oil in the lamp finished burning. They left no footprints, but they left silence. Babies breathed, most of them at least. Some blinked without sound, others smiled at shadows, and one was said to hum before ever being touched. There existed no record in any church scroll, no family book, no county file, no land deed for the house on the ridge. The only mention was carved in thin bone beneath the paint of the chapel's wooden cross. Just names of mothers and their fates. Ruth torn wide, Clara lost too much. One by one, initials followed. E.M.C. Over time, patterns grew wherever the sisters stepped. Cold followed where they stood. Life paused. Where they lingered, things returned, not always in the way they had gone. Jonah Bray, a man who raised cattle and prayed twice a day, told others that his son never wept since birth. He claimed the boy's skin felt colder than snow, and his eyes refused to close during the christening. The water in the church basin turned green and thick with dead beetles. Rumors became ritual. Mothers whispered to their daughters to leave salt by the windowsill, and not to say the names of the sisters after dusk. One woman claimed her baby would only stop shrieking if wrapped in cotton soaked in vinegar. Another said her daughter's shadow moved when she stood still. The preacher's wife spoke once about seeing Carroway burying something beneath her garden tree, a round cloth tied with string and dripping with red. Replied, "It keeps what crawls from crawling further." After that, no one greeted the preacher's wife again. She left with her newborn, swearing the child would not speak the Lord's words or stand in the sun. One morning, the bell in the chapel fell silent. Its rope had been severed clean, as if with hot metal. No one saw it happen, but most avoided the house on the ridge after that. Yet during the plague weeks, when ash fever swept the town and took a dozen each day, it was Ununice who entered homes without invitation. She sat by each sick bed, whispering to the air survivors, spoke of a chill that settled on their chest, like something pressing gently to keep their breath inside. One boy named Levi dared to walk up the Carroway path on a dare. He did not return until dark. His shirt stuck to him like second skin. One eye turned sideways, and his tongue too stiff to move. When the preacher asked what he saw, Levi only whispered one word, wailing by sunrise. His hair had turned white, and his family left without packing. The ground around the house bore signs that no one understood. Tiny impressions, smaller than a newborn's palm, but so deep they cracked the earth. Nothing grew there, not grass, not moss, only silence. That autumn trees refused to let go of their leaves. The air thickened with something that smelled like burnt cloth. Birds nested in places they never had before, and every wind carried a sound like humming through wet teeth. Elise, a mute girl who had survived lightning, gave birth to twins under the sisters' gaze. She later said they never laid a hand on her. Instead, they stood in a triangle, swaying slightly while humming a tune that made the ceiling shimmer. One baby never blinked, the other smiled until the 7th moon. The town council met in secret, 6 voices trembling in the chapels. Cellar lists were drawn, names were compared. Every paper ended with one name. Carroway. A plan was formed, 1 man for each sister. Peace offerings, words of closure. 3 went to, returned the 3rd. A man named Jowl was never seen again. His boots were later found by the porch, standing straight despite rain his satchel, untouched, filled with herbs and wool. After that, couples stopped sharing beds. No more children were born that winter. The soil turned soft like breath trees, tilted rivers. Slowed the house on the ridge quieted, but smoke never stopped rising. A stranger arrived one night on horseback. He wore a rusted cross and carried a sealed letter. His horse refused to climb the hill he walked alone. Morning came red, and the stranger was never seen again. Spring came, but no frogs sang. Rain stopped naming itself. Wells emptied without noise. Still on the ridge, the garden bloomed colors never named. Petals shaped like mouths, vines that pulsed. One schoolboy claimed the plants spoke. He returned with burns on his hands and a tooth beneath his skin. His mother boarded the windows and left in her home. Every curtain had been tied into letters. Her son's name. A new midwife arrived from another town, asking for the sisters by name. No one admitted sending a letter. She walked up the ridge, face calm, eyes steady. She never came back. But that night voices sang, three low, one high, thin, and not quite human. Merbth was first to return. She wandered the town in silence, apron stained. Eyes wide, she looked at the flagpole until the sun rose and said one word. Measure symbols appeared beneath the school floor, circles around an eye. The teacher quit, her replacement fled. Children stopped drawing with chalk. The walls held marks that no one could clean. Ununice followed next. She asked the blacksmith for nails. Not for wood, not for coffins. She asked for 41. When asked why, she said one for each unearned breath. The blacksmith handed them over. 3 nights later, he died beneath his pillow. The nails were found in the shape of a cradle. Maynard Pearl returned to town with a baby. She had vanished months earlier after her father's burial. Her child had pale skin, hair like air, and never blinked. She said she heard someone else breathing during labor. She gave no name. He already has one. She said no one saw the baby move. A neighbor peeked through a curtain and swore it sat at the dinner table, watching the family disappeared. The house stayed cold, how returned by fire. She stood in the town square before dawn, her dress soaked and stiff. She placed a bundle, wrapped in white, at the well's edge. It belongs below, she said. Flies gathered fast by night. The bundle was gone. In its place, a circle where nothing grew. A child stepped there days later. He stopped speaking, his teeth clenched, forever shut. That winter silence arrived. Roads vanished under snow that never fell. Yet every night at 3, the bell rang once long and hollow. Livestock changed, milk soured. Mothers whispered numbers to babies. Instead of names, the sisters were seen, often moving through fields, carrying jars with cloth bundles marked by symbols. Unknown, a preacher who tried to bless the town vanished. Only his shoes remained. A note from his journal appeared behind the altar. They are not just midwives' cribs rocked without touch. Bowls appeared on porches filled with black liquid that smelled like rust and milk. Some emptied them. Nothing happened. Others ignored them. Those who dared to burn them heard footsteps above their heads. That night Jacob Fincher burned his bowl. His roof folded inward. His house creaked like breathing in the morning. A cradle sat in his room. Inside nothing except a pink curl of something not quite hair. He fled. His house remained a family named Waitley. Moved in unaware of the history. Their daughter found a package, white braid tied in weed. A note said the first breath must not be wasted. Her mother burned it that night. The stove exploded in silence. Next morning the girl vanished. Her shoes sat on the window laces, soaked in honey. Children stopped praying. They learned to count backward. They were taught to close their mouths during storms. More children arrived without mothers. All were silent. Each bore a stitch at the base of the neck. One sang in dreams. One smiled without breath. One hummed as the priest burned. Cradles rocked. Names disappeared. Dogs barked at trees that moved. Bread turned black. No one spoke the sisters' names. Not from fear, but from understanding. Birds returned, but they did not sing. They watched. One evening, a woman followed the sound of wood creaking. She reached the ridge. 100 cradles rocked in rows, empty, silent. In the center, 3 figures stood. Ha, with closed eyes, Ununice lifting one hand, Merbth holding thread, waiting to listen. By the end of summer, the wells tasted like ash fields. Stood hollow eggs broke soft and filled with string. A child named Ruthie found cloth with symbols, she thought. It was a blanket for dolls. She wrapped hay and sang that night. She stood by her mother's bed, hands around. Her neck, lips bleeding with pinpricks. Her tongue bore a single stitch. Later, it was gone. She never spoke again, only hummed. Then came the sound, wood upon wood, not from trees, from below, beneath floors, inside pipes. It grew louder with each night. The Carroway house disappeared without light. No smoke, no fire, just absence. A bowl-shaped mark remained. Mothers clutched their bellies in. The dark lamps dimmed, clocks ticked backward. Nothing moved. Then humming returned, not from cribs, not from throats, but from the earth. And when the wind stopped and the snow covered every sound, 3 shapes were seen once more, barefoot, watching. If a bowl waits at your door, or your child hums in sleep, do not speak, do not ask, do not name what never had one.